You've probably heard by now that 3 Russian military jets violated NATO airspace for 12 minutes on Friday, September 19th.
Breaking story, the developing story we've seen over the last hour or so, because Estonia's government says 3 Russian military jets entered NATO airspace without permission.
The Estonian government labelled the act as quote-unquote unprecedentedly brazen. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry denied having violated Estonian airspace, saying they flew over neutral waters. The thing is, the 3 Russian MiG-31 fighters did not have flight plans, nor were their transponders switched on. They were also not in contact with air traffic control. So, what is Russia doing? Would they really risk having one of their aircraft shot down to start the next major conflict? And should NATO forces have taken such measures? Let's examine things more closely for today's video. First, we'll go over the actual incident and its details. This will be followed by how Estonia and its NATO allies have reacted/are reacting. And finally, we'll end this video with an assessment of what Russia may be trying to do through these actions. And so, with tensions already high because of the war in Ukraine, the incursion came just over a week after more than 20 Russian drones entered Polish airspace on the night of September 9th to 10th. That prompted NATO jets to down some of them, with extremely high speculation and belief that all of this action is Russia testing the alliance's readiness and resolve. Russian drones entering NATO airspace has happened a few times already prior to the major Polish incident. We saw a few of these unmanned objects crash land in Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia. And while the mainstream media is reacting to this more recent MiG-31 incident as if it's the first time it's ever happened, the Baltic Air Police mission scrambles its fighter jets on a semi-regular basis, reacting to Russian aircraft that stray into Allied airspace. In fact, Estonia's foreign minister was quoted as saying, "Russia has violated Estonian airspace 4 times already this year, which is unacceptable in itself, but today's violation, during which 3 fighter jets entered our airspace, is unprecedentedly brazen." Indeed, this more recent incident seemed to be much more deliberate and had a much longer duration than most NATO airspace incursions. As reported by Newsweek, the 3 MiG-31 fighter jets entered Estonian airspace between 9:58 a.m. and 10:10 a.m. local time on Friday, September 19th, in the area of Vaindloo, an island in the Gulf of Finland. The jets had ignored signals from Italian F-35 fighters from the Baltic Air Policing mission. And while we can't really trust anything that Russia says, its Ministry of Defense denied the jets flew into Estonia's airspace, saying they stayed over neutral Baltic Sea waters. Estonian officials dismissed that, pointing to radar information and visual identification confirming the Russian jets entered the country's airspace. The Estonian Ministry of Defense has put out an infographic showing the flight path of these fighter jets through its airspace, which you can see is quite close to the capital city of Tallinn. And so, while the Russians deny any intention to enter NATO airspace, most EU officials agree that this was no accident. The Estonian Prime Minister has even gone so far as to invoke NATO Article 4 and open political consultations with member nations. Responding to the Polish drone incident and this more recent MiG-31 incursion, NATO scrambled its first jet to defend its airspace under Eastern Sentry, which is said to be a new activity to further strengthen its air defenses to shield and protect all allies. This is in addition to the numerous fighter jets stationed in the Baltics under the air policing mission. 4 German Eurofighters are also standing ready to respond at an airbase in the northeast of Poland. There are also 3 helicopters from Czechia that have recently arrived. NATO's Eastern Sentry operation will also see Denmark contributing fighter jets and an anti-air warfare frigate. The UK has sent 2 of its Eurofighter Typhoons. So, what's going on here? What might Russia be trying to do? A few things come to mind. Normalization might be one hope or strategy. If such incidents happen often enough, and Russia can have enough plausible deniability and say that its navigation is just a little off, then maybe the broader public will just shrug these things off in the future. A drone incident took place in Romania on September 13th, and this was a few days after the major drone incident in Poland. You may or may not have heard that Latvia discovered fragments from a Russian Gerber drone on a western beach near the Baltic Sea on September 18th. If such activities happen often enough, normalization could lead some countries who are further away from the front lines to wonder how long they can be on high alert and how much longer they should be contributing resources to something that doesn't seem to be all that serious. And while the media should have the responsibility of not sparking mass panic and a belief that World War III is right around the corner with every event, we think that every airspace incursion should be taken seriously. On the topic of probing, the primary belief is that Russia is testing NATO response and defenses. Putin is trying to figure out if NATO air defense is all it's cracked up to be, and if there will actually be a reaction, and what exactly that reaction might be. Already we've seen people criticize NATO for its weak reaction, mainly comparing it with an incident in Turkey in 2015. This time, Estonia summoned a Russian diplomat, and the country, along with NATO, issued some strongly worded statements. But in 2015, the Turkish Air Force decided on a faster, bolder response.
The Russian fighter bomber was shot down at 6,000 feet. A Turkish TV crew filmed as it fell, perfectly positioned, it seems, to ensure that the world got the message. Turkey will not accept violations of its airspace.
An article by military.com notes that within minutes, a Turkish F-16 fired an air-to-air missile and sent the jet spiraling to the ground. One Russian pilot was killed by Syrian rebels after ejecting, while the other pilot was rescued in a high-stakes operation that left a Russian Marine dead. While it could have sparked a massive conflict, it, well, didn't. Of course, intense diplomacy was required in the aftermath of the event to de-escalate the situation. Indeed, diplomatic ties were severed for some time, and the Turkish president eventually sent Putin a letter expressing regret. But other than probing to see how NATO is responding and how much it's willing to tolerate, Russia's actions have the effect of testing the resolve and unity of the alliance. The Baltic nations and Poland are calling for any and all resources to be moved to the eastern border, a call that will most certainly test how much fellow NATO allies are willing to contribute. Russia's actions have also been seen as a way to discourage countries from supporting Ukraine and sending money and military assistance to the country. It indirectly suggests that NATO members may need to save resources for themselves. And so, through his military's actions, Putin is effectively probing, testing and stressing in the political sphere, probably hoping to spark disunity and disagreement among the 32 member nations of NATO. But what do you think of all of this? If a similar airspace incursion takes place again, should the aircraft be shot down with the risk of sparking an all-out conflict? Let us know by leaving a comment.